Most thieves steal cash, jewelry, or a laptop. If they really want to go big, maybe a car. But today, we have a story of two men stealing a whole 150-foot plane. In 2003, a Boeing 727 airliner was stolen at an airport in Luanda, Angola, prompting a worldwide search by intelligence agencies in the United States. No trace of the aircraft has been found. Who stole the plane? More importantly, where did it go? I mean, how did a jet as huge as the Boeing 727 go missing? 2 decades later, this mystery still remains unsolved. Let's start with the beginning. On May 25, 2003, a Boeing 727 sat idle at the 4 de Fevereiro International Airport in Luanda. The plane was built in 1975 and had been operated by American Airlines for almost 25 years. It was then sold to a company called Aerospace Sales and Leasing. The aircraft was a stunning thing. It was not painted except for the red, white, and blue stripes. The commercial jet consisted of a narrow body, 3 engines, and a T-tail. In Luanda, the magnificent aircraft had been grounded and was sitting idle for 14 months. In that time, the plane owed the airport around $4 million as airport fees. All passenger seats had been removed. It was just an empty shell. In fact, the Aerospace Sales and Leasing intended for the plane to be flown to Johannesburg so that it might return to its previous glory. Instead, something else happened that would mark this plane forever in the history of aviation. Let's start with our story. It was the year 2003. On 25th May, after 6 p.m., the plane took off without any approval from anyone, really. 2 men were seen sneaking into the aircraft, Ben Charles Padilla and John M. Muntau. Padilla was a certified American pilot and a flight engineer. Muntau was a mechanic and was hired from the Republic of Congo. It is assumed that both men were working on the plane with Angolan mechanics to ready it to fly again. There may have been more people aboard the plane, however there were no witnesses to this claim. Now Padilla, although a certified pilot, was not qualified for a plane as big as the 727. He had only flown small private aircrafts prior to this incident. Muntau was even less qualified. Just to give you an idea, this plane is supposed to have at least 3 people as aircrew on board before taking off. Here we had only 2 underqualified and inexperienced men. Did that stop them? Nope. It was a feat in and of itself that they managed to fly the plane at all. The plane's engines were started, and it began going on one of the runways of the Luanda airport. This is extremely dangerous to do without communication with the control towers, but Padilla still did it. The plane skidded erratically across the runway, and despite many attempts, none of the control towers managed to establish communication with rogue aircraft. The lights were off on the plane. It was in quite a sight as the 727 took off after sunset. Without lights or transponder, it took off in a southwest direction directly over the North Atlantic Ocean and disappeared. The plane, the pilot, and the passenger were never seen again. Obviously, the way the plane took off alerted major intelligence agencies. A desperate search and investigation ensued. The FBI and the CIA also got involved, trying to find where the plane went off to. There was also the risk that this was a terrorist attack. At least that's what both agencies believed. This theory was not without its merits. First of all, this incident took place not even 2 years after the 9/11 attacks. Secondly, the plane was a flying explosive, if in the wrong hands, could cause a lot of destruction and devastation. Right before taking off, the 727 had been loaded up with almost 15,000 gallons of fuel. This was enough for the plane to fly 1,500 miles easily. The first and last time the aircraft communicated was when someone on board asked for permission to land in the Seychelles. The Seychelles is a tiny country of 115 islands in the Indian Ocean, off East Africa. It granted them landing access. However, the 727 never even attempted to land there. The plane, or its remains, was never discovered on land or in water. It's not like this was the first or only missing aircraft, or even the first stolen one. But it is the largest one to disappear without a single trace, There are many theories surrounding this plane. Some said the plane simply crashed into the ocean and was never found. It is also said that it was shot down by an Angolan Air Force missile. Others believed it was a terrorist attack. Another possibility was insurance fraud. Let's go through these theories one by one. If the 727 had crashed or had been shot down, there would have been some debris or wreckage, but there weren't even any sightings reported of the plane. There were no reports of plane crashes either. Some joke that the plane has been flying ever since and hasn't stopped for the past 20 years. On to terrorism. The FBI and CIA definitely thought some foul play was involved, so investigators started researching for any and all information they could find about the two men. For John M. Muntau, they found nothing, apart from his name and the fact that he was from the Republic of the Congo. The investigation into Ben Charles Padilla was much more fruitful. The pilot was 50 years old at the time of this incident. He had a passion for airplanes and aviation since childhood, so he took flying lessons in his 20s. He got his first certification to pilot small aircrafts. His sister claimed he had a gift for mechanics, so later he became certified in airframe and power plant mechanics. Before this whole affair, Padilla had lived in southern Florida with his fiancée of 15 years and his 2 kids. Padilla was a freelancer at the time of the event, having previously completed 2 assignments for Maury Joseph, the owner of aerospace sales and leasing in Angola. Why would Padilla leave his comfortable life to steal a plane and then vanish? Maury Joseph had assigned Padilla to this plane as well. He was responsible to supervise all the needed repairs on the aircraft. He was in charge of making sure the 727 was ready to return to the skies. He was also tasked with hiring a pilot and co-pilot to fly the plane. Padilla did everything perfectly. He had even made plans with Luanda-based airline, Air Gemini, to move the aircraft out of the hangar onto one of the runways. On May 26th, Padilla's employer, Joseph, got a call telling him that someone had stolen the plane. Joseph informed American authorities at once that his jet had been stolen and demanded that they notify all aviation authorities as well. From then, all the airports with runways big enough to accommodate a 727 landing had to be contacted. Since Padilla had no track record of such recklessness, it is speculated that he did not fly the plane willingly and was forced to do so. His brother was interviewed many times after the incident, and he has said dozens of times that Padilla was innocent. He believes that the plane was hijacked and forced Padilla to fly the 727, in spite of his inexperience. He also believes that Padilla was either killed or held hostage by the hijackers. Padilla and his brother had discussed hijacking of planes. In fact, Padilla had once said that he would rather crash the plane instead of flying it properly if such a situation occurred. Perhaps that's exactly what he did. However, as we mentioned earlier, no remains of the plane were found. A few months after the aircraft went off the grid, a similar-looking plane was spotted. The report came from Papua New Guinea and immediately alerted FBI and CIA investigators. Was it the same plane that was stolen from Angola? Alas, it was not. When officials investigated the report, it turned out to be a false one. The Boeing 727 and the 2 passengers on board were still not found. The days, weeks, months, years, and decades passed with 0 sightings, and the plane's disappearance became more and more unusual. The urgency surrounding the loss of the 727, Padilla and Muntatu, eventually faded. The authorities looking into the matter could see that Padilla was no longer an urgent threat to the US or any other nation. An increasing number of officials came to assume that the plane was stolen as part of a financial scheme run by Maury Joseph, the owner, as a result of the situation de-escalating. So we are on to our final theory: insurance fraud. It has never been established, according to one of the case's main investigators, whether the owner took it for insurance purposes, whether it was stolen with the intention of giving it to criminals for drug dealing or human trafficking, or whether it was a planned and coordinated terrorist attempt. However, there were theories about all 3 possibilities, It wasn't completely out of the question that Joseph faked the entire disappearance. It's no mystery that Joseph's 727 had been a thorn in his side since leasing it to a man named Keith Irwin. The two men had arranged a $1 million purchase agreement, whereby Irwin, who gave Joseph a $125,000 deposit, would have the aircraft paid off in full within 30 days. Yet over a year went by, and not only did he fail to meet his part of the agreement, but also the 727 sat idle and accumulated over $4 million in unpaid airport fees. So, the theory that Joseph was attempting insurance fraud was well-founded. He was aware that the airplane was really just a large source of components to sell, and it was in poor repair at the time. Joseph would be able to make a claim if the plane had vanished in the event that it was taken over or stolen. Joseph's background also includes false insurance claims and fallen businesses. An extensive article published in Air and Space Smithsonian Magazine in September 2010 was unable to draw any conclusions on the fate of the aircraft, despite research and interviews with many people who knew of the details surrounding the disappearance. This event still remains what it was since 25 May 2003. A mystery. No one knows why it happened or what happened after it. Whatever the reason or the outcome, this incident remains the largest aircraft disappearance without any trace. Let us know what your theories are. What happened to the Boeing 727 that was stolen 2 decades ago?